Welcome back to Project Rejectus. In this episode, we will discuss the shallows, from where we left off. The first animals have emerged here. We will see how they adapted to the shallows. First is the cloacher, who is one of the first animals to adapt for the shallows. We will see how their descendants evolve and survive. As time went on, some cloaches, to stop dehydration, invested into bigger, bulkier shells to better preserve their moisture. This in turn created the motor. The motor can conceal its whole body within its shell, keeping maximum moisture. During low tides, all of its limbs have been changed into feeding arms that it constantly waves around to eat. This is also helpful with the predators of this time, as it protects them, and if that ever fails, they can still flail themselves away, although some species will create a glue-like substance that keeps them bounded to the seafloor. Some have specialized for this and became much bigger, evolving into Adcha, a mobile filter feeder that acts like a sponge or coral with an extremely hard shell. They can live in huge colonies, making them the biggest and most abundant creature on this world. The Balbrums took this challenge on in a different way by expanding on their many limbs to better move. The Vemley came to be moving much like a squid. They propelled themselves through the water, and whenever low tides came in, they simply just held their breath and stumbled around until the tide came back, while their slow, clumsy movements worked. At first, as predators evolved, they were easy prey, being one of the most common, until they gained a new weapon, venom, along with the green and yellow stripes as a warning. This simple defense helped these filter feeders expand far through the sea, acting as this world's version of jellyfish. But enough talk about this predator. Why don't you see it for yourself? From F. Warris came a larger, faster animal known as the Pristrum, the original monster, due to its purple blood across the entire side of their body's gills to get as much oxygen as possible. All three of its mouths have become solid structures for hunting. The top two mouths became claw-like, used to hold onto prey, to which its bottom mouth, turned into a spear, would stab it, effectively killing their prey quickly, while no longer used for digging like their ancestors. The hairs on their back are now used for detecting any hidden prey out of sight, such as their cousins, the Varilus. I won't spend too much time, as they live very similar to their ancestors, but they went full into digging. As their body is covered in fine hairs for digging, they act as worms and scavengers, from the same family as Pristrum. As it got bigger, instead opted for filter feeding, keeping its multiple gills, but unlike its cousin, it went further into the open ocean, but that will be discussed in another video. The Trippus also adapted to this new environment by going for niches now opened up by these newcomers. One of the Trippus descendants reacted to this by becoming more mobile, but instead of any defense, it went purely for speed and evasion. This created the small herbivore terraces. They spent their lives running from bigger predators and grazing on early plants, hiding in them with their red camouflage. Their cousins, on the other hand, went on the offense, such as the Viribus, who, like the cloacher, gained a shell, but instead of putting everything into their shell, they spread it around and gained some scales, which made it perfect for life in the shallows, as it couldn't dry up. But since no plants existed on the barren surface, it couldn't become fully terrestrial, making it more like a crab. By turning their sucker mouth into a claw, the Viribus could not only eat tougher plants, but now had a weapon to use against any predators who got too ambitious. Some of these animals found out their beaks could break more than just plants, going onto a carnivore diet, but since the Pristrum already took this niche, this created Rejectus, a smaller predator that is specialized for hunting hard-shelled prey like motor and young adkers. It still has to defend from bigger predators, so it has red camouflage and a harder, more centered shell, and just like its predecessor, and can't dry out due to their hard scales, letting it endure the harsh tides. It moves around like a starfish, using its beak on the bottom to break shells. And lastly, we will be discussing the to descendants of Rejectus adapted for this environment. First we have Rusum, it has gone on a convergent path with earth seaweed, but differs with its red top, making it also similar to lily pads, as it will float up to the surface to get any sunlight available. And for the last organism will be Lagaceae, fast-growing moss-like organism that lives on the seafloor. Only its top leaf appears, with the rest of its body being hidden. These creatures will clump together in huge colonies, growing extremely fast and big. Thank you for sticking until the end. If you want to help out, the Discord link is in the comments. Also check out Project Athena and Project Centaur, they make speculative Evo as well. But that's it for today. In the next episode we will go into the deep seas of Glaciae to see how life will evolve in this harsh ecosystem.